Video is for entertainment purposes only. This is not a step-by-step how to do on anything, strictly for entertainment purposes. If you have any questions or concerns about a firearm that you own, please take it to a good qualified smith. All right, so this is going to be a video of don't trust everything you see on YouTube. I know that's saying a lot from a guy who's sitting here and posting videos on YouTube. But let me explain. All right, so what I've got in the shop today is a little handy rifle, right? And you see I've already completely disassembled it. Now, where I'm at in Mississippi, these are popular little guns, right? Because you can put different calibers on it, so on and so forth, and some of them will run for primitive weapon. I'm not getting into that. But I see this kind of thing a lot. So here's the hammer. We go to cock it. We are lined up on that beautiful deer, right? We cock it. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Now, before some people say, oh, we got to hold this up and then do it. No. Because I see a lot of these. And also another little idea to where I know somebody has been in it is you see, one, the pins aren't all the way through, and two, they've got a lot of damage to them, right? And you can see the pins are poking out on this side. And something else that tells me that they've watched a YouTube video on a trigger job is if I hold this trigger forward, it stays cocked. But as soon as I release the trigger, the hammer goes forward. So that tells me that someone took this hammer out and polish something that they shouldn't have. So now I'm going to take everything apart and actually show y'all everything. All right, so I've gone ahead and disassembled the firearm just so I could explain this a little bit better. First off, I don't like seeing that. That's rust, right? I don't like seeing rust. Rust, as we all know, will destroy a firearm. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to take a look at this area here, right? This is actually where the trigger and the hammer engage each other. And when I push forward on this hammer, the trigger should hold it. And you see the trigger just completely passes by. I also understand, everyone, that the commentary you hear in the background is my daughter. She's 2.5. She likes spending time down here with Daddy in the shop. So you might hear her do some sideline commentary. Now, the reason that the trigger's not wanting to hold the hammer is you can see somebody has gone in here and polished the ever-loving hell out of this with a Dremel tool. Well, Zach, how do you know it's a Dremel tool? Because this surface here is eat up like garbage. If they used a file, I'd be highly surprised unless they were going at it this way with a file rather than this way. Right? And then if you also look at the ledge here, it's supposed to be nice and square, and this is far from square. It's, of course, going up this way, but it's also rolled forward like this, right? And you can see that, okay? Compare that to a new one, right? Whoop, got a little dirt on there. Right? You see everything's nice and square. The ledge is nice and square. So on and so forth. Right? But something else that also this customer did, let me take the pin out, is this is the front of your trigger. Why on God's green earth is that there? Why is the front of this polished? There's no need for that. Then you look here on the back. And once again, you see that that's probably a Dremel tool again, because you've got uneven wear, as well as this has been cut down just a little bit. But I think I can salvage this part because they spent most of their time working on this part, right? All right, so watch again. We've got the hammer cocked in the cocked position. The trigger is holding into the actual notch there. So if I push forward on this new trigger, it's not going anywhere, right? You see, I'm really trying to engage, right? Now, all we'd have to do is I'm going to apply just a little bit of pressure to the hammer and some pressure to the trigger. It drops freely. Hammer moves just fine. Now, there is a spring that would bring the trigger back to this position roughly. Trigger comes up, or hammer comes back, locks in, and we are good and tight, right? Now, the reason I'm bringing all this up is, and I might have already said this, I don't know, is it's going to be more expensive to replace this old trigger with a new one and put everything back in and at factory standards, essentially, than it would have been if he would have brought the firearm to me originally to do a proper trigger job on this, right? Just being honest. So yeah, I'm going to put all this back together and then show you the finished product, and then we might go outside and actually shoot it. But before I do any of that, I am going to take all of these parts, the receiver, the pins, everything, and I'm going to take out the last pin that holds the, that little silver part down there is actually what locks your barrel in. I'm going to drop all this in a sonic cleaner just to go ahead and clean everything and then lube it all back together, or lube it all up, put it back together, and that kind of thing. So, yeah, stay tuned. All right, so it's been a few hours because I got tied up with customers and phone calls and emails and things of that nature, which is perfectly fine. I don't have a problem with, but I was hoping to already test fire this thing today, and I kind of ran out of time. But here is the rifle finished, right? Yay! Right? And it's just a little TEPCO. Oh, no, it's a BSA. So, yeah, it's not that great of a scope, but hey, it works. But here's the big thing. So, hammer extension, right? And then I'm going to try to, there we go. Yay! Yay! Now, I wasn't able to salvage that trigger when I first thought, because this is it, right? And you see that that little nub is broken off. And if you also look, come on, focus, dadgummit, focus. There we go. There's some rust all around that as well. So, unbeknownst to me, I had put the gun together. Hooray, getting ready to be done before all the phone calls and things like that. I went and squeezed the trigger, and I felt that piece snap. Now, what does that little piece do? That piece actually runs your trigger extension. That trigger extension's main job is for the striker, because I know it has a hammer, but there's a safety feature to where the hammer hits the striker hits the firing pin, and the striker moves up and down. So when it's cocked, the striker moves up into position, and then the trigger extension actually holds it underneath while the hammer falls. Because without it, as soon as the hammer starts to fall, the striker's going to fall as well, right? And that's just a little built-in safety in case something happened and you did drop it, and while it was cocked and the thing doesn't, go off and shoot you, plain and simple. So tomorrow I am going to go out and test fire this thing just to make sure. It's just a 243. I'm not a huge fan of these because they are overly complicated. And a lot of that has to just do with sue happy people, right? But they're good guns, especially for young shooters, especially in this caliber in a 243. A young shooter, small shooters, even some elderly, that would be perfect for. Now, granted, I'm close to 6'6", and I'm like 375 pounds. So, yeah, I'm not really that worried about recoil and that kind of thing. So, yeah, I'm going to go out and shoot it tomorrow. It's supposed to be kind of rainy, nasty, yucky. because we're getting ready for the Snowmageddon 2022. So yeah, I don't know what the video quality is going to be like tomorrow, but I'm going to test fire this thing tomorrow regardless. That way I can go ahead and get it the hell out of my shop. Because there's one thing about gunsmiths. We try to get done with jobs as quick as possible because we want to get paid as quick as possible. So I'll do all that tomorrow, then do a lot of editing, then probably upload this tomorrow. So anyways, y'all have fun. See you tomorrow. I'll have a different shirt on. Alrighty, so I got all this fixed up. It's lightly snowing here, but in Mississippi they consider this Snowmageddon. Now, just to preference this, where I'm shooting is completely safe. There's no one for over a mile in this direction, so completely safe. Always know your target, always know what's beyond your target. So let's go ahead and test fire this thing. Once again, this is in a 243. I'll be shooting it left-handed so people can see a little bit better, hopefully. And yes, it is 30 degrees, and yes, I still wear a kilt. So it fired and ejected that shell pretty as you please. I'm gonna pick up the shell, and yeah, let's go back inside. All right, so everything worked just like it was supposed to. I'm going to sit here and dig around for the casing. And the casings can always tell you a good bit, right? So you want to sit here and look if it'll focus. There we go. If you see a lot of scratches or such on the actual big side of the casing, right? You know you've got some chamber issues. And then you also want to sit here and look at the neck, right? You want to look at the shoulder into the neck. If you see any cracking or splitting or anything like that, that's something that you need to look out for as well, because that could lead to either something as simple as, hey, it's bad ammo, all the way to a headspace issue. And another way to really check your ammo, if it'll focus again, come on, there we go, is look at the primer itself. You see how this one is nice and dented, right? So on and so forth. If you notice that this dent in the primer is flattening out, that means you've got a pressure issue, right? And that's usually a good sign of bad ammunition, right? I know a lot of people reload. Hell, I reload myself for my personal firearms. And sometimes reloaders just want to get a little bit more velocity, right? And a little bit more, and a little bit more, right? Until bad things happen, okay? So just be on the lookout for that, okay? If you are reloading, of course. But also something else that I recommend everybody do is, I don't care if you're test firing a 22 or a 50 BMG, get a good pair of ear muffs or ear plugs, some type of hearing protection. Now, I like these. These are a Howard Leat, however, right, by Honeywell. And I use these constantly. I mean, you can see they've gotten a good bit of use. I've had to replace this foam a couple of times, right? But what I love about them is up here on the front is actually a microphone. So I can cut this on and still be able to hear everybody just plain and simple and normally, and still be safe to shoot. So yeah. Anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I'm now going to sit here and finish getting ready for Snow Apocalypse 2022. So yeah, y'all have a good one.